Good evening, Arsenal community. Weekly surgery is going to be open tonight for episode 27, I believe it is. But before we get into it, people, we are going to smash the intro. If I can find it. Here it is. Footballing community. Waiting time is now over. The Albert JTV practice is now open. The surgery required is Premier League talk and any other business. Let's get to work. Welcome to the weekly surgery. It would help if I put myself on screen, wouldn't it? Here we go. Here we go. Be with you shortly, people. Technical issues or operator errors, as you like to say. So, people, as you can see, weekly surgery is back. The Albert JTV practice is open. And before you're thinking, no, actually, I won't be on my own tonight doing it. I have some amazing special guests joining me to talk all things Arsenal. Or let's talk Arsenal, as you put it. So the first person I'm going to introduce, people, is Lord Ramsgate Bad Boy Williams in the chat. The Calypso King of cricket, football, and you can't shut him up sometimes, but he's my guy, man. Let's bring in Lord G.
What's going on? What's going on, man?
You like the intro?
Yeah, man, I love that one. I love that, man. I love that Calypso King of cricket, football. And it's true, you know, everyone says to me, like, why do they call you G Talks? And then they invite me on the show and they realize very quickly why they call me G Talks, because I don't shut up, man. So
right. There's gonna be some housekeeping, G. If you don't shut up, I'm gonna mute you. I'm gonna boot you out of the stream.
we need to have one of those like safe words, isn't it? Like you got to say something when I'm rambling on too long. You got to have a word. So as soon as I hear that, I know to round things up. But yeah, man, I'm all good, bro. I'm all good.
Right. First guest is here. Second guest, I call him the fresh face of YouTube. Guest appearance extraordinaire from the fantastic part, the Hastings finest. Rasim, I call him, but he's actually called Ray Kassim. Welcome, bro.
Thank you so much. What an intro that was, eh? That was pretty decent, to be fair. Thanks for having me, G. Amazing to see you again, mate. And chat box, James. Can't wait. Let's do it.
Yes, and last but not least, and this has been verified, people, so I don't want to get any Ofcom complaints. This is the best looking man in Essex, the whole of Essex, not just Colchester, not Romford, not Chigwell, the whole of Essex. Bring him in, LL Cool James. Welcome aboard, mate.
Oh, thank you very much, Albert. When you ask, I don't normally say no, but you asked, and I said yes, and then all of a sudden, you're like, "It's me, it's G, and it's Ray." I'm like, "Oh well." It was a yes to begin with, but now you know, like on Britain's Got Talent when it's not one thumbs up, it was a super yes. It was It was one of the biggest yeses I've ever gave in my life.
Yeah, I've had to get my panel one. I must apologize because this is not my issue, by the way, people. It's because now you can connect to a live stream to do Instagram live. So when I went to go press live, they said, "Oh, there's an issue with it connecting. You got to do it again." I said, "I'm not doing it again." Right? Instagram is your fault, man. Trying to get more people to watch the show, you just messing it up, man. But never mind. But yeah, shame people couldn't get that on the Instagram live as well, which is a new feature on StreamYard. I think they need to fine tooth comb it just a little bit, But yeah, man, weekly surgery. I think it's episode 27? I think it is. I'll struggle to 27 or 28. One of them. The people, as I say, if you're in the chat, smash the like button already and get your virtual waves and hellos and goodbye, not goodbyes when we finish the stream, obviously. But it's been a while. Our last weekly surgery was with my YouTube Tottenham wife, who I'm sure might pop up in the stream at some point. But yeah, let's talk Arsenal, man. I've watched a lot of pods. I've seen a lot of Twitter interaction the last 3-4 weeks, probably. I actually don't mind the breaks when they come, winter breaks, international breaks. I need a bit of a recharge and let other people complain about Arsenal. It's like a soap opera on the social medias, but I'm gonna ask all three of you actually, just a general question. I was thinking how to start this, but I'm gonna come to Ray Kassim. So what was your sort of expectations for the start of the season? And sort of fast forward into what you've seen so far.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of expectation, I expected to challenge again, certainly in the league. And I kind of expected to kind of build a bit on what we've done last season. Now, it's not always possible because, let's face it, the season was kind of split into thirds in the league. We had 2/3 that were really, really good. We played some fantastic stuff and we really controlled games and we were really exciting to watch. I don't think a lot of teams really knew what to expect when they played us last season. And yeah, it was, I mean, just the whole 2/3 of that was brilliant. Then we come to the last third where we fell away, however you want to word it.
Great. I'm gonna pause you there quickly. I'm gonna give you a bit of sort of context because when I went on the same one, I think James was on there as well. So my prediction at the start of the season was Arsenal's a challenge for the league. I want to see them at least get to the quarterfinals of the Champions League.
Okay.
And win one of the domestic cups. I don't think, for me personally, that was too much to ask for from what I saw of last season. There are no guarantees in football, of course, but that was sort of my prediction for the start of the season. But obviously, come back to you, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, basically just a challenge for the league. The cups are always a difficult thing for me. I think we should go as far as we can. I think we should take them as seriously as we can. But sometimes you just get a draw that just isn't very favourable. Now, Liverpool at home, I believe that we should have done better. I actually think we should have won that game. But on paper, that's a tough draw. I know it's at home, but what happened can happen. And as for the League Cup, the less said about that, the better. I would have liked to have us taken that a bit more seriously. But we're still very much in the Champions League. We won our group very convincingly. And on paper, we've got a decent draw in the next round. So all in all, I can't say I'm delighted with how the season's gone so far, but I'm probably content.
Okay, yeah, we're going to delve into it more, Ray Cassid, mate, and G talks and James. Come into G actually, sort of the same question, but yeah, you can kind of sort of what was your sort of predictions or what you wanted Arsenal to achieve as a club before the start of the season, before our balls kicked? Let me throw that in very quickly, and obviously upon reflection, what you've seen so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting when the start of the season, because I think every fan of every club will have some kind of season expectations in terms of what they'd like to see, and I think also kind of what they would like to see as a bare minimum. And I think for me, based on last season, I wanted to see us push for the title once again. Maybe hopefully go that one step further that we didn't achieve last season. But ultimately, for me, it was about consistently maintaining a title push and winning a trophy. That was my kind of expectation this season. I think we had a really amazing season last season. Obviously, as Ray said, we kind of fell short at the final hurdle for whatever reason you want. Some people want to say it's a bottle job. Some people want to put it down to injuries. At the end of the day, it is what it is. As disappointed as I was, we couldn't get over the line. So going into this season, I expected another season pushing for the title, and at minimum, at least a trophy.
Okay, cool. Gee, look, God, I was waiting. I was going to sit in the chair for another 15 minutes.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. Listen, do you know how hard it was then? I had to cut it short. It was almost everything inside of me was telling me to keep talking, but I thought, you know what? Let me just cut it short.
Before I get to James, I forgot something very important housekeeping. I've got James's channel and I've got G Talks, who represents the Army TV, in the channel in the title. So people, because I know you don't really like YouTube, you don't really like to multitask people, but just you can subscribe to the channel and watch the treatment at the same time. So it's possible. So please do that. And of course, follow my guys in their Twitter handles down on the bottom of the screen. And as you see it, in the boxes in the screen as well. So James, let's come to you, my friend. We obviously pod together quite a bit now, James. Getting used to it now. This is like my Tinder date streaming brother.
Well, I was going to say you've probably heard it already, but I don't know if the other two have. So sorry that you're hearing it again. You know me, start of the year, Albert. I said it doesn't matter how much City spend, Liverpool's, the Chelsea. When Arsenal go out and spend 105 million on a player, you've got to win the league. You have to win a Premier League title for me. If you're making that much of a spend, you've got to do something serious. And you're probably going to touch on what I think now compared to what I thought at the beginning. But other than that, I wanted to go as far as we could in a cup. Did I expect us to win one of the cups? No. And technically, I didn't put us down for winning the Champions League either. I thought we'd go far in it, but I didn't put us down for winning it. However, I think the lay of the land now, currently in the position that we're at now, I think if he doesn't at least get to the final of the Champions League, I think there's serious questions that need to be asked. Because there's going to be a regression in the league to me, which I don't think is acceptable. And I think if you go back, if you've spent more, but you go backwards instead of forwards, and you don't supplement that with something else, I don't think that's good enough anymore, to me personally. I know other people may differ on that, but I think we're going to be 5 years in it. Yeah. I think took it as far as he can, if that's going to be the case. But I hope I'm wrong, Albert. I hope we win both.
Yeah, 100%, man. So Ray, coming to you, because I think Tom Canton asked me. I think not last season. It would have been the season before we was going for top four. I think he asked me, do I think could I see Arsenal win the league under Mikel Arteta? I said no. I think he will get us to a point where get us back in the Champions League, and then we'll see what happens. I mean, I couldn't foresee what would happen the season after, and obviously now. But yeah, I just thought I don't know too many rookie managers. I don't know. I'd have to go through my encyclopedia of football in the last 30, 40 years who have won a league title in their domestic country after 4 seasons. That's not too many people do that, or 3 seasons at the time. But I sort of fast forward to obviously what I've seen this season. A lot has been made in the style of football, and that has affected us. Ray, I'll come to you quickly in terms of obviously I'm looking at. I always look at chances created. I always do. I don't know. You guys might have seen the stat before the cup game in terms of Premier League. Arsenal don't rank in the top 5 of any of the attacking stats this season. So my question to you, Ray, is sort of taking that on board. You probably knew some of them things already. You know what some of the fans like on the platform. I think there's been a good sample size of games this season, whether you're going to look at the team or individuals, which we'll come on to say, are you at a point where are you panicking, or are you kind of on the fence, or you're kind of on the side of we're halfway through the season and there's still time to go?
I'm not panicking. I'm probably on that fence, and I'm probably sort of saying that there's still a little way to go. But I mean, that might completely change in the next 3 games. You don't know, do you? I think it's fair to say, as James touched on, we obviously spent huge on Declan Rice. And I think that's a good signing, by the way. I think that's a really good player. He's a really good player for us. Whether we win the league this season or not, or seasons to come, at this moment in time, I think that's an outstanding signing. But I don't think the midfield, we've tried to rebuild, and I don't think it's quite worked as yet. And I think there's various different reasons for that. As you mentioned, Albert, our attacking play or goals from open play has been abysmal, really, isn't it?
We ranked 13th.
13th, yeah. We've got 19 goals, I believe, in the league from open play. I think Man City and Liverpool are on 31 and 32, possibly.
We've got 20, just to knock it up a once.
All right, okay, one more then. But regardless, it's not good enough at this moment. So I'm going to contradict myself a little bit and say we can still turn it around. I believe we can still turn it around because I have seen it before. I think if we can, I just think we need something to potentially go our way, because I think we've had a lot of the ball. I think Fulham is the only game where I go, we were abysmal.
We're absolutely atrocious.
We were atrocious.
Yeah,
but I think all the other games were so frustrating. I mean, I'm not one for XG or anything like that, but when you hear them stats, it kind of just leaves you scratching your head, thinking, how the hell did we not come away with anything from these games, or 3 points in some occasions. So I think there is something there. I just think that Mikel, staff, everyone has to just get it going. And I don't know if it's going to be a fluky chance. I don't know if it's going to be a dodgy back pass. I don't know if it's going to be, a shot from distance that somehow trickles in. But I just think we need something to get us going. And I think if we can get that, if we can get some of our players back as well, I see no reason why we can't at least stay in it. And if we're in it by sort of March, April time, then who knows?
Before I come to G, where are you on the sort of the confidence scale of 1 to 10 with Arsenal at the moment?
At the moment,
yeah.
At the moment, it's probably a 6, to be honest.
Oh, bloody hell! Yeah, some fans you're probably 3, the way they're talking at the moment. But nah, listen, I hear what you're saying. You know what it is, G. Before I come to you, like I said, Ray's touched on it. Open play goals 20, ranked 13th. Goals ranked 7th. Shot conversion rate 10th. Big chances missed 9th. Big chance conversion rate 9th. And the big chances created, actually, we rank, I think it's 9th in the league. Even Brighton and Villa and Chelsea and Everton have created more chances than us. That's I mean, when I saw Everton on the other teams, I can probably say, you know what, okay, we can sort of compete and catch up with them. But for the way Everton have played this season, yeah, they picked up results, but they've even got creating more chances than us. That's got to be a concern, surely.
Yeah, can I just make a point? Sorry, guys. I mean, with that, yeah, it's not great, but the one positive that we do have is our set pieces, and our set pieces are fantastic, and they've kind of got us to a point where we're actually still technically in it. We do need to sharpen up, maybe defend them a little bit, but we've got a big side that can score from set plays now, and we never normally had that in the last 5, 6, 7 years. So that's another reason why I still have some sort of belief that it's not over. So
G, yeah, Cummins, just to mention, and obviously the stats I'm talking about and the big chances created. We talk about the style of play. What's your thoughts? Because obviously, like I said before on another stream, between the likes of Jesus, Odegaard, Saka, and Martinelli, I think 84 goal contributions last season in the Premier League. They're nowhere near going to hit their numbers this season, and we're halfway through.
I think, like, for me personally, I mean, the stats interest me because obviously sometimes I look at certain stats and I'm like, okay, I'm kind of a little bit pleasantly surprised, and I look at some stats and it kind of paints a real kind of doom and gloom picture. But at the same time, I mean, I've watched every single game this season. Like, let's focus on the Premier League because I know this is what we're talking about. And like Ray said, I mean, apart from the Fulham game, all the games where we've either won or even dropped points, I mean, they've either been really evenly contested games, like the St. James's Park match, for example, where we lost that very controversial goal. I mean, that was a very evenly contested match.
Yeah,
that game easily could have ended a draw if it weren't for the controversial goal. And then when I look at the 2 games in particular that stick out for me is West Ham and Aston Villa. Both those games for me, we completely dominated. The only issue with those 2 games, how we walked away in either of those matches without any points, it's just baffling because we had the vast majority of the ball. I mean, if you look at the stats for either of those games, we dominated the entire 90. The problem I think the fundamental issue we're having this season that we didn't necessarily have last season is that we're just not as clinical as we were last season in terms of in front of goal. And that's the biggest issue. I think, last season, Martinelli. Sorry?
What about the style of play as well?
You know what? The style of play is not as good as it was last season. But for me, I'm not too worried about that. And the reason why I'm not worried about that, because I know a lot of people are banging on about Ange Ball at the moment, it's really difficult. I mean, what Tottenham are doing, I'm sorry to speak about Spurs, but I've kind of got to touch on this because I've had a few conversations about this recently. You know, what Spurs are doing is nothing genuine. It's nothing authentic. You know, what Spurs are doing in terms of playing, you know, the one game a week that they've got, and this kind of liquid football. I mean, we saw Arsenal do this last season, and I think a lot of it is that kind of surprise factor. A lot of teams haven't quite sussed them out. A lot of teams are kind of playing into the palm of their hands, and we saw that last season. You know, we were just wiping, you know, teams off the park in terms of the way we played. But what happened is, back in the last season, coming into this season, people just said, "Okay, so that's the type of football we want to play. Okay, try playing that against 11 players behind the ball." And see how far you get. It becomes a lot more difficult. So I think opposition have somehow adjusted to the way we play. They have kind of worked out the style of play. But also, I think some of our players have gone into this season and they've not hit the heights. They've not hit the form that they had last season. I don't think, you know, and people might say, oh, but you look at the stats. For me, Saka's not the player he was in the first 20 games last season. Martinelli is not playing at the level he was playing at the beginning of last season. Jesus is in and out of the team because of injuries. And when I look at some of those games, like I said, the West Ham game, the Aston Villa game, there were chance upon chance. Even if you look at the FA Cup game against Liverpool, we should have been 4 or 5-0 up in the first half. I think, you know, we can't, for me personally, I don't think it's, and I know this is controversial, but I don't think this is massively a reflection of Arteta and his tactics. I think in a lot of those games where I've been so disappointed and, you know, we've lost those games or we've dropped points, I've reflected on the game. Some of those games I've watched back and I thought to myself, how have these players not buried the chances that they've created? Because that genuinely, if our offensive players have been as efficient as they were last season, this season, I genuinely don't think we'd be having this conversation, regardless of the style of play. Because West Ham was a banker. We should have won that game. We had the chances to win. Villa was a banker. We should have won that game. We had the chances to win. Liverpool, we should have been out of sight by half time. So as much as obviously accountability is always going to fall on the manager, he's the person in charge. At the end of the day, this is a results business. But a lot of these players, they've really got to look in the mirror because they're doing the boss no favors whatsoever. Because if you watch back some of these games, honestly, how we've not been 2, 3, 4, 5-0 up, I'm watching it. I'm watching it absolutely pulling my hair out, chance after chance after chance, and we're not converting. So God only knows, you know, what's going through Arteta's head. Because genuinely, if you actually look at the season in terms of the Premier League, there is literally only one game that I watched and thought to myself, you know what? We deserve to lose that game. And that game was Fulham. Other than the Fulham game, we've put in, even if they haven't been amazing performances, we've put in a performance that, had we been on point in key moments in the games, in either box, we should be sitting now at the top of the league, having only recorded one defeat, and that was to Fulham based on performances. But for some reason, these guys have forgotten their shooting boots at home. They've forgotten how to finish their dinner. And that's a big problem. And the problem in this league, as we know, you know, against the opposition that you're playing week in, week out, if you fail to take your chances when you are dominating the game and, you know, everything's going your way, eventually, you know, the opposition are going to make you pay for it. So I'll be honest, I'm not as concerned, and I'm not as I've not been as critical of Mikel Arteta as a lot of sections of the Arsenal fan base have been, because for me, when I look at, I know you've kind of like, you know, let off a lot of those stats, but I mean, if you look at the stats season on season in terms of clean sheets, in terms of goals conceded, in terms of possession, in terms of big chances created, statistically, we are actually a better side in terms of dominating games. The only area in which we basically are faltering at the moment, for me, is up top. I don't know. I don't quite know why that's happening. But in all honesty, I genuinely feel like I don't see Arteta as the issue, because he's tactically setting the team up to play a certain way, and bar the Fulham game, the performances were there, the chances were there to win the games, and the players are not taking the chances. And obviously the pressure is always going to increase on Arteta, because, like I say, it's a results business, and that's going to fall on his shoulders. But ultimately, I think the players need to take a lot of the responsibility for the reason why we went from being top at Christmas to now sitting fourth in the Premier League.
No, well, fair play. So, James, coming to you. I am concerned personally. Said that, I put it up. I did it in my Albert JTV afterthought. And what I mean by that is, let me give some context. So, I understood the grumbles after West Ham. I did, because this by far has been, in all since the existence of the Premier League, this has been the most open Premier League that I've seen. And Arsenal fans looking at thinking, you know what? Last season was a tough one to take. This season, if we just turn some of these results around, the opportunity is there. I'm not saying we're definitely going to win it. I didn't tip Arsenal to win the league to start the season. I went for City. I thought we finished second. I thought Liverpool finished third. But I am concerned because we obviously we're in January now, and we'll touch on transfers a little bit later. But so we're coming to the manager. Obviously, what's your thoughts about Arteta? I'd say more so this season, not necessarily his time at Arsenal, but sort of this season, how we've sort of managed games. And I'll take G's points in terms of not finishing chances, but that's probably more to do with that. We're not creating many anyway. So when you do create them, you got to take them. But I guess we're going to talk about we will bring up in terms of the playing staff and the guys that he's kept on and some of the guys that he's brought in, which we'll talk about. But where are you with the manager and sort of how we've been in recent weeks this season, more so?
Okay, so let's not call a spade a spade. We've had a shocking December. We've had a horrible. We have had an absolutely honking month. It stank. And do you know what? I still, Albert, have these reservations, even 4 years in terms of this guy's man management and reacting to what's happening in front of him. Because I still believe, and I don't know, and again, I don't know if it's just personnel, but there's Melvin in the chat, and I quote him because Melvin drops pearls of wisdom, mate. If Melvin talks, you have to listen. He's one of those types of guys. And Melvin said Arsenal have plan A, and then they have plan A again, but with different personnel. And that is literally it. We just do the same thing. It's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. And that to me is still a problem. I mean, you guys have just spoken about it. When Arsenal have more goals from set pieces and not open play, as much as I agree with you, Ray, that this is brilliant that we've got players that, especially the two centre-backs, we've got the two centre-backs in the league that are arguably the best in both boxes. And that's a massive plus. That's a humongous plus. But at the same time, when you really pre into that, and realise that we've not scored a direct free kick since Martin Odegaard bent one in against Burnley 3 years ago. It's, again, and as other people in the chat are putting, I don't think Liverpool are the best team, but what they do is they're ruthlessly efficient. And we've gone over-reliant because we're a team that are goals by committee, and last year that committee scored more goals than the Invincibles. So they can't be rubbish. They don't just turn rubbish overnight. Just something has happened in there where it's a case of confidence or, we've missed that one. Oh, now I'm missing. And I don't know if it's because they've been overplayed, because I think the rotation, there's people at this club, Albert, that are on good amounts of money. And he talks about how I wish I could play them more. Well, I'm sorry, but no one else makes that decision. Us as fans can't pick the team. It's not done by a poll before the game starts on Twitter. Only he can pick that team and make the subs. So I don't know why he keeps coming out with these statements like, oh, I really love him. I wish I could do more with it. Well, you can do more with him. No one else can make that choice but you. I mean, Smith Rowe, he's been fit for ages. We all know what Smith Rowe bailed him out of nearly losing his job. when the Brazilian boys were naughty and had that big dinner at Willie Ann and David Luiz's all them years ago. So it seems that he has a short memory of these people that saved his bacon last time. And they're good players. We know they're good players. But I mean, you've seen it. Like you said, most openly. We could do this pod in 3 weeks' time and we could be top. Because it can just flip.
Yeah.
But there is
That
something
element,
there is something that really needs to. I mean, there's so much that's coming out. I wished, Albert, when they went to Dubai, that they didn't actually take any of the cameras and they shut it. We didn't see anything. Just crack on, and then show us what you've done in Dubai against Crystal Palace on Saturday.
James, it should have took them to Dartmoor.
Yes,
not to Dubai. But James, you make a good point. I don't know if G and Rare come in. I watched Liverpool a few weeks ago against Newcastle, and I've had to reconstruct their midfield. Now, I don't think they've even finished yet, to be honest with you. When these guys really do settle in, but I watched their forward line, and I get the ruthless thing, because of course they are. I said that start of the season. Liverpool top end of the pitch are killers, but the interchange, the movement, where's that with Arsenal? I mean, where's the interchange with Saka and Jesus? Jesus can play across the front three. I think I've seen that twice in his Arsenal career since he's joined us. Saka, there's one game we played this season, I can't remember, is it the Emirates? I think he got so fed up with staying on the right side of the pitch, he swapped over with Martinelli. Why can't Martinelli go down the middle? I don't know where's the flexibility gone?
Well, Albert, just quick as well. You know when we played Chelsea and Trossard got that. That was, I think, that at that time we had the most goals of our players coming off the bench. I think it was 12 or 13. But now any sub we make, and I'll ask all three of you, do they change the game? Do any of them come on and you think, brilliant, he's coming on now? I mean, either they're done too late where they have no effect whatsoever.
Liverpool in the cup. I couldn't believe what. It's crazy. Crazy.
And that to me makes me think, if you don't trust them first and foremost, and then you're also not giving them enough minutes to change it, why'd you keep them around? Because you're going to touch on transfers, Albert. But if we're going to do anything, one of these has got to go. Yeah, one of them has to. But they have to.
Yeah, you know what it is? I said this the other night on the Armory TV, and I posted the clip. I posted the clip on X, and some people reacted to it positively, some people didn't, as you can imagine. But I said that the thing with Arteta is, I think it's because I'll say it how it is. When Arteta got the job, I don't shy away from what I previously said. I was absolutely gutted he got the job. I didn't think he was. I didn't think he had the credentials to go from being, an assistant coach or whatever it was at Man City to then taking over, for me, one of the biggest jobs in world football. So for me, it just didn't make sense. I didn't want a rookie. I didn't want an inexperienced manager coming in at Arsenal. However, he came in and I just, I kind of just thought, you know what, I'm not going to bang on about it every single week. I'm just going to accept it and I'm going to run with it and see it. Now, in terms of like where it's at, so my view is a little bit controversial with certain fans in that I don't think anybody envisioned that we were going to challenge for the title last season. So when we were going into last season, most of us as Arsenal fans kind of had expectations of, you know what, it'd be great if we won a trophy, but we can't really see it. But the most important thing is we need to get back into the top four. Now, the problem is that, and I said this line on the Armory, I said that in many ways, Arteta is a victim of his own progression. And I used the word tactically. I used the word progression tactically because the reason why I never said success, because for me, success is winning trophies. And the only trophy he's won is the FA Cup, with more or less a squad that he inherited. So, however, I do think he is a victim of his own progression because nobody envisioned we were going to challenge for the title last season. And yet, because we have, understandably, expectations have risen. Yeah. Now, because of that, because we challenged for the title last season, everybody is, and then obviously gone out, bought Declan Rice, Timber, Raya. Everybody are now expecting us to challenge for the title every single season. The problem is that Mikel Arteta, as much as I support him right now, he might not necessarily be the manager, that can win us a title. And until that either happens or doesn't happen, we're not going to really know in terms of that, because I don't think he envisioned we were going to push for the title last season. I don't think he does. And I think right now,
I said Arsenal will be about 2
yeah,
years off.
I think right now, I think he's under pressure from himself. I think he's under pressure from sections of the fan base, and he's definitely under pressure from the media. And that is because of what we did last season. That's kind of like the benchmark. The problem is he set the bar now. So anything below a title challenge is a problem. So it's like, I mean, do you know what I mean? Had we hit top 4 last season, nobody would probably be too deflated at this point. But he set that bar, and that's what the expectations are now. So my only concern, I'm not concerned so much with the season. I'll share my expectations, or not so much my expectations, but I'm going to share what my future outlook on Arteta is. I'm willing to give him this season. So if for whatever come May, we end the season trophyless, I'm not going to be calling for him to be fired. However, he has to deliver. For me personally, he has to deliver a major trophy by the end of next season. That's just my personal opinion, because I genuinely believe that last season's title push was ahead of schedule. I genuinely think that. I genuinely feel like last season wasn't necessarily supposed to happen, and it has happened. And because of that, the pressure's just been cranked up on this team of players, the manager, etc. And he's going to have to live with that. He's got to have to live with it, because that's how the game is. At the end of the day, we can't have lower expectations now, because we say, we were only 3 years or 4 years into a 5-year process that you spoke about. At the end of the day, you put out a team that challenged for the title, so they're capable of it. So they have to do it now every single season. And if they don't, we have to look at you and ask questions. So I get the pressure. For me personally, it's going to be very disappointing if we finish this season without a major trophy. At the same time, as hard as it seems, we are still, we still have a chance at the league. And for me, other than Manchester City and Real Madrid, I believe we are either joint or the third best side, for me personally, in the Champions League. The only 2 teams that I fear in the Champions League is Man City and Real Madrid. Man City, just because of, we know, we don't have to sing and dance about it. We know they got arguably the best manager of all time, billion dollar squad, whatever. With Madrid, they don't even have the best team. It's not like the Galacticos of past, but what they do have is pedigree. And that pedigree serves them so well in the latter stages of that competition every single year. So in terms of the end of the season, I think it's going to be hard for us to win a trophy. But for me personally, the only time I'm going to start questioning Arteta in terms of him being at Arsenal Football Club is if come by the end of next season, he hasn't won a major trophy. That's when, at that point, I would say, you know what? It's gone past the 5-year process that he bangs on about. He has been backed in the transfer market. We can't say he hasn't. And I'm sure that's going to continue come next summer. So at that point, I would say, you know what? Maybe thank you for what you've done in terms of like bringing us this far. But maybe, it's going to be a step too far. And I go back to what Albert said just to sum it up. And this was the reason why I didn't want him originally in the first place. I support Arteta. I'm currently Arteta in. I think he's done a really good job both on and off the pitch in terms of where we were to where we are now. I think he's really turned the club around. However, the reason why I was against the appointment in the first place is because he is a rookie manager. And at the end of the day, it's like Albert has said, if you go through the history of football, regardless of what country or what league, how many managers have won, a domestic title within the first 5 years of their career? It's almost certainly unheard of. And that's why I think Arteta is going to be a household name in this industry. I think he will probably one day go down as one of the best managers of his era. However, I'm not sure he's going to be able to achieve what he later does in his career at Arsenal, because let's face it, he's still, you know, he's still barely wet behind the ears in terms of a managerial career.
Yeah, that's a big statement. They said that about AVB quite a few years ago. I don't know where he is now, but Ray, coming to you, joining us back of that, I get the thing about I don't know where you are in terms of, you know, Arteta has to win something next season. Some Arsenal fans are at that point now. I look at our domestic cup competition since he's been here. I mean, I think we got to the Carabao Cup semi-final against Liverpool, was it? But other than that, our record in the cup, domestic cups, has been dreadful.
Awful.
And that doesn't help because we're out of both domestic cups, and we're talking now the second week for Ghana is the third week of January. That leaves us with an European trophy that we've never won. Our European history competition is rubbish, to be fair. We haven't won a league title for 20 years. So I get the angst and the feeling, and people were saying Porto's a good draw, and I said, yeah, it is, but this is knockout competition. And if you don't get it right, you will lose. Yeah. And we've seen Arteta's tactical capabilities in European football at a lesser level, and we've been left with egg on our face. I hope to God, Ray, that game against Porto over 2 legs doesn't go pear-shaped, because I get it. It's a weird one, because actually, let me bring you in. It's, you know, we are obviously in the fight for the Premier League, but I get the frustration, personally speaking. But do you think with Arteta, like the pressure, obviously, like I said, domestic cup competition, we haven't done too well, mate, under him. I know we won it, obviously, inherited on the Emery's side of it. But so where are you with the manager in terms of what G was saying in regards to delivering a trophy next season?
Yeah, I mean, I completely hear it. I just think it's so difficult to do. I think we should be, as I said earlier, I think we should have the opinion that we can certainly challenge, and that if we take these competitions seriously, we can go quite far. Even if we do get tough draws at home, you know, we can still put up a decent fight and you know, win that game potentially.
I hear you, man. I hear you, bro. Because you know, let me come in quickly.
Go on.
What annoys me, right? This what really annoyed me. We lost to West Ham, right? Yeah. And I saw this on the timeline, and you guys would have seen it. Oh, but we would have got Liverpool in the next round. Stop that kind of talk and mentality. We're Arsenal Football Club, as you keep telling us.
Yeah.
You can't be the same thing in the Champions League. If we get through Port and we get Real Madrid, so bloody what? You have to beat the best in it. We talk about, we know, been at the Champions League for 7 or 8 years, and then when we get a tough team, that's what you wanted. You wanted Champions League nights at the Emirates. Come in, Ray. Sorry, mate. Go on.
Yeah, so I mean, it kind of goes to my point about taking it seriously. The West Ham Carabao Cup game. Did we take that seriously? Not really. We put out a, you know, sort of half-hearted 11 with you know, half-hearted performance, and it was, yeah, it'd be nice to go through, but you know, looking at West Ham's team on the night, they wanted it, you know, and they took advantage and they went through. So yeah, I want us. I'm desperate for us to win a trophy, and I want us to win one of the big ones. I want the big ones. Yeah. The reason I want the big one. I want the one with the big ears. I want the Premier League. I do want it, but the reason why I think, and this might be a little bit controversial, but the reason why I think we will take it more seriously in the Champions League, certainly, it's just because of the financial rewards for getting to the next round. Us as the fans, we want the trophies, we want the success, but Arteta, I think he loves Arsenal Football Club, by the way, but his bosses are the Cronkies, and they want the rewards from progressing in these tournaments.
Yeah,
I think
very differently. You're right.
I think the winner of the Carabao Cup gets about £1 million, and I think the winner of the FA Cup gets about 3 million. And I think getting to the next round of the Champions League will generate tens of millions. I don't have the exact figures in front of me. I should probably have done that research before I come on.
Ray, how dare you not having the figures?
I know. I'll have Joey Barton on my case in a minute.
Oh God.
But yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, I think there's a pressure from above. I think the pressure from above for Arteta to perform in these competitions is why I believe we will see the best team we can get playing against Porto, home and away.
Ray, you make a good point. I'm going to come back to you. You make a good point, because if we had owners of other respective clubs, Mikel Arteta wouldn't be the manager. Let's have it right.
No.
He'd be gone. He would have been gone time ago, right? But the Cronkies are quite a different. They're quite different in that sense that they obviously think he's doing a good job. For the Arsenal fans that want him, don't want Arteta at the club anymore, or they dislike him, he's not going anywhere. Something drastic would have to fall off a cliff for the Cronkies to turn around and say, you know what, we're getting the first flight over to England, or you get Mikel, you're coming over to, you're gone. I don't think that conversation is going to take place.
Yeah, I mean, he's completely their guy, and I still completely back Arteta. Like I say, it doesn't have to win anything this season for me, but we still have to be in with a shout. We can't just fall away. We can't just be, battling for top four between now and the end of the season. Excuse me, because that would mean that we've fallen off drastically. We'd have had some shocking results between now and the end of the season if we're not even challenging. If we're still, trying to battle for top four, we would have had some, like I said, some terrible results. So that can't really fly with me. And like I said, we have to take the Porto game seriously. And then once that tie's done, it's the quarterfinals. Depending on who you get, you never know. Not the best team. The best team, doesn't always win the Champions League. You just have to sort of do enough to get to the next rounds and to do enough in the away leg and try and win your home leg. That's kind of just how I see it. As long as we don't fall away, we don't completely crumble, and we don't embarrass ourselves, I'm all for it. And I think he should stay.
Right, interesting. People in the chat, thank you for your interaction. Fantastic. Smash the like button, retweet on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Smash a like on YouTube, and this will, of course, go on the downloads on Spotify, and what's the other one? Apple, of course, people. So you'll get to hear my Southeast London dulcet tones, Ramsgate bad boy, Hastings finest, and Essex's best looking man I've ever seen in my life. You'll hear all our dulcet tones later. But James, coming back to you. The guys I mentioned, obviously, about Arteta and delivering this season or next season. Where are you with that in terms of delivering a trophy? And on top of that, where are you in terms of maybe the issues of Arsenal this season, or the negative way of looking at Arsenal in terms of the recruitment and the playing staff? Where do you sit with that?
Yeah. So again, to say like what I said earlier, I think he seriously needs to push for Europe, because I look at the league now and I think whereabouts we are is probably where we're going to finish. And for me, again, because of and I'd agree with what you said, G, the club have come out and even said that they feel that we're a year or two above what we believed that we were going to be. But when you do set that expectation, it has to, for me, you have to match it or better it. And to regress to what I feel is I can swallow it in terms of Man City, because they're just, people always said to me, you will not see a team that's better than that 99 Man United treble side, James. And I went, well, I have. Because not only are they better than them footballly, but they've got a financial superpower, a country even, that are behind it. So not only do you have to beat them on the pitch, you got to beat them. You got to beat them to finding these players, not just at the age of like a prime footballer of 25 to 30, 31, 32. They're also finding the best young talent and taking them from You know, Albert, they're taking them from our neck of the woods, Essex, London. they're
Go on,
taking them
lad.
from everywhere, South America.
Yeah,
They don't care. So they're like, we'll beat you at every level, from under 8s to the top tier of the game. And that for me is such a struggle. But for me, like I said earlier as well, this Liverpool side, and if you've got Liverpool fans in the chat, I'm all up for them coming to roast me, Albert. I don't think they're a brilliant team, but they are, like I said earlier, they're just ruthlessly efficient. They just do everything so blooming well. It was a bit like when Tottenham had a bit of a pomp under Antonio Conte, when they were scalping Man City and some of these. They weren't great. But Son, Kane, Kulusevski on his day just pieced you up. That's just what they did.
Yeah.
And I look at it and I think in terms of the recruitment and the personnel, Albert, there's a glaring 6'4" German that a lot of people, I don't even think he's Marmite. You love him or you hate him. I think he's so polarizing as a figure. The goalkeeping issue. Although I think he's a better goalkeeper marginally, I don't think there's much in it. He has created an issue there. I believe that the players weren't best pleased with it to begin with. I think they've realised now, they're like, okay, well, he's going to be our number one, so let's knuckle down. But I do believe at the start that they were quite aggrieved that someone who is a vocal and somewhat of a leader in that dressing room, regardless of his age, big character, has been diminished. And you can tell, you can see, we've all got eyes. He don't look like he's the happiest person. Although I thought that Liverpool game was the first in the cup, was the first time since he's come back in that he looked like his old self. Like it didn't before. I think mentally he's played like, I'm a number 2 keeper now, and that's bothering me. But I thought against Liverpool, he actually come in and was like, no, I'm Aaron Ramsdale. I'm Arsenal's goalkeeper. He played like he was still number 1 to me, which I was really, really impressed with, because even his distribution was on key, apart as well as his saves and everything else. Rice, agree with what Ray said earlier. What a play! When you make 105 million look cheap, you got to be you got to be some kind of player. But I still think, Albert, the biggest problem is the majority of the work that we've done, and it's all good work, don't get me wrong, but we are a side that plays like there's only been 75 million spent on it up front in his tenure. Everyone else has spent hundreds and hundreds of million on wingers or on forwards. And we've spent 75. Willian was a free, but chalk him off because we all know how bad, he's doing brilliantly now, but he did terrible for us. But Trossard and Jesus, they're the only two that's 75 million pound worth of forward. And to me, they play like they're 75 million pound worth of forward.
Shout, Jake.
That's the bit that for me, like I said earlier, this window, you get rid of someone that you probably don't want to get rid of, and we all know which one it's going to be. We all know the one that holds the value, and that to me is Eddie Nketiah. You let Eddie Nketiah go, and you do all that you can to go to Wolves for Pedro Neto, regardless of his injury record. That guy is the difference maker for us. If we got rid of Eddie, Albert, and brought Pedro Neto, I'd sit here now and go, we might run for the league as well as the Champions League. I think that we could only probably win the Champions League because it's a knockout comp. And like Ray said, not always the best team wins it. I've got Italian family, Inter Milan fans like me. They weren't the best side in the Champions League last season. But if it wasn't for Lukaku playing football in Timberlands and not football boots, they might have won it last year against Man City. They might have ruined the treble last year. That's the only reason they could have. They should have won. They should have scored 2 goals through Lukaku.
No, well said, James. Sort of coming to Lord G. James has made some good points, man. In terms of, I think the thing concern for me is we talk about this left 8 role. I'm not really on board with the whole Xhaka loving thing. If I'm going to be honest, mate, his time at Arsenal, yes, he stood out in one particular season, maybe 2, but I can understand if this was pre-season and you had a look at Havertz. It actually should have worked with Trossard in that position because technically he's brilliant and he's a finisher. ESR you could have looked at. We still don't know what we're doing in that sense. We look at the recruitment, and I can see why people weren't too enamored or giving it 7 or 8, or giving it 8 or 9s out of 10 in the summer, because I wasn't. Because I don't think we ever really... We needed Rice and another. I don't know any Arsenal fan that didn't say that. You look at the wingers. James talked about wingers. Kudos has done well at where he looks sharp at West Ham, man. Diaby at Villa. Leon Bailey joined Villa last. You think to yourself, we wouldn't exactly have to scrape the barrel to go and get these guys if we were seriously interested in them. I think in terms of looking at someone like Bukayo Saka in particular, and I've said this before and I'm going to say it again, and you know me, I've got Nigerian origin, but we should not be pinning our hopes or having this guy spearhead Arsenal Football Club. I said it before, when they made the stat lot, this season, the consecutive games he played, yeah, I can give a pat on the back for that, but I'm like, kind of long going forward, and the times he needs to be taken out of the team. I think that goes for some of the players in the team, to be honest with you. It comes back to saying, in terms of recruitment, and obviously January's coming up, I'm going to be honest to you, right? And I had this conversation, it wasn't with any of you guys, it's I can't remember as well with, and I thought to myself, I know this is going to really upset some Arsenal fans, but I'm going to say it. It might not be inconceivable that they might not possibly bring anybody else. They're not bring anybody else in. Yeah. But if they do, what is the one area like, you know what, this has to get done, or this can wait till the summer? Where are you with this now?
You know what it is when it comes to transfers, it's always a bit of a tricky subject, because you know, I've seen a lot of narratives around, you know, Havertz and Fabio Vieira, for example. So when you look at those two players, I mean, they basically cost us best part of 100 mil. I have a lot of debates with a lot of Liverpool fans, because I've got quite a few friends at Liverpool. And going back a little bit, one of them said to me, you know, you do realise that Klopp's only got to win 2 more Premier Leagues to match Wenger's Premier League legacy. And I said, well, you do realise Arteta's only got to win 1 to match Klopp's. So, do you know what I mean? When you actually look at it, you know, I think Ray was talking about just how difficult it is. I think sometimes we do forget just how difficult it is, because I think a lot of us would sit here and say Klopp is a world-class manager. At the same time, a lot of us would sit here and say that team he had that went back-to-back with City for about 5 or 6 seasons was arguably better than the current crop we have. Yeah. But yet he only got the better of Klopp. He only got the better of Pep once in terms of all of those campaigns. And many of those, Liverpool fans tend to forget, many of those campaigns, they were top at Christmas. They like to say we bottled the league, but I tell you, City ran them down almost every single time to win that league. Do you know what I mean? So that kind of gives us a little bit of context. And then also the Liverpool man said to me, you wasted 100 million on Havertz and Fabio Vieira. And you know what? I'm not denying it. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's a waste of money, because I still think both of them are still early on in their Arsenal career. Would I have spent 100 million on those two? No. But I'm not going to write their Arsenal careers off. At the same time, I think Liverpool and Klopp spent the best part of 100 million on Keita and Chamberlain. Absolutely. So I mean, when you look at transfers, it's like everybody, when you're looking at a rival side, everybody remembers the Salahs and the Manes, but they forget the side Keita and the Chamberlains and you know, those type players. So I think on the large part, I think the recruitment at Arsenal for the large part has been good. But I think, like every manager, even Wenger, you know, if you imagine sitting here, you could make, you know, the worst 11 of Wenger's era. You know, he was hailed for the Vieiras and the Henrys and the Overmarses, but for every Overmars there was a Kaba Diawara. You know what I mean? That just didn't do well. So I think with transfers, there's always an element of risk. Transfers either pay off or they don't. I think on the large part, I think most of the players Arteta has signed have been decent. In terms of what we need now, I completely agree with you. I'm not expecting us to sign any player this window.
And Arsenal fans need to take that as a possibility, because
I'm not expecting us to sign anybody. And the reason why that is because I just feel like we spent a lot of money in the summer. And in terms of what I'm seeing, I'm not seeing any real kind of concrete links. I'm just seeing a lot of rumors, a lot of paper talk, a lot of agents, you know, pushing their clients, linking their clients. Everybody knows we want a striker come summer 2024. I genuinely don't believe we're going to move for a striker this January. I think if we do, I think it will be a short-term solution, maybe a loan or maybe kind of like a loan with obligation. But I don't envision Arsenal going out and spending, 40 million plus on a top centre forward, which is what we need. So that is concerning because, like I said, for me personally, the only thing that I'm really worried about in terms of the way we're performing this season is the fact that we're not actually putting the ball in the net. And that's a massive concern for me because I don't, unless some of our players just hit form all of a sudden, I can't really see that changing in terms of like us becoming, more clinical overnight. So that is a concern for me. But in terms of our squad, so for January, I personally don't envision we're going to sign anyone. That's a massive concern. But if we are going to sign somebody, I completely agree with James. I think we need to sign a winger and also a centre forward, because the reason why I say that is Saka and Martinelli walk into this side. And while that's good on the one hand, because they're both top players, Saka can play however he wants to play, and credit the kid because he's been so consistent since he's come into this Arsenal side. But Saka can play awful and just walk into the side. The same with Martinelli, because ultimately he's brought in Trossard. But in many ways, that's one thing I will criticize Arteta for. I genuinely believe that Trossard's poor form at the moment is mainly due to the fact of how Mikel Arteta has used him and managed him. Because when he came into the side, he was absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. And if people rewind their minds back to pre-season, Trossard was our most informed player at pre-season. And yet he just couldn't get 5 minutes. And now it's got to the point now where he comes on and he doesn't even influence games the way he was influencing games, when we signed him. And pre-season, like I said, for me, when we was in the States and we were doing this and doing that, for me, Trossard was arguably our most informed forward. He even scored the goal, that won us the Charity Shield. So I don't quite understand, the way he's used, Trossard. And even if I know you said, James, about ESR, I mean, ESR, that season, we pushed for top 4. He was the reason why we did. And yet he's come back from being off injured and he's not got a sniff. So it's just a bit strange. But I mean, to summarize and to round it up, I mean, I think this current squad is in desperate need for a winger that Mikel Arteta trusts and a winger that is at the same level of, Martinelli and Saka, if not better. And we need a centre forward because ultimately, I said it, and I've said this so many times, and people think it's not me being doom and gloom, but I genuinely believe we will not win the Premier League while we have Jesus and Eddie as our centre forward options.
Yeah, 100%.
They're just not that level to push us for the title. They're just simply not.
And G, to add to that, I'm gonna bring in Ray. Like this what makes me mad. James, you'll see this, and all you guys will see it who do pods and whatever. It's like with Mikel Arteta. Now, people know, if people see my content, not just on my channel, but I go on other channels and I'm asked about Mikel, I'm not either way. I've not got this infatuation and sentimental feeling towards him, and I don't want to dash him onto the street and he get rid of it, because that's not my decision. So I have to look at it with some kind of balance. Yes, there are times this season when I've been I was vexed after the Fulham games. I done a watch along for that. Even one of the games I usually do my Albert JTV afterthought. I had to pull it. I said, I'm not gonna put it out there. I just said, you know what? They say don't make decisions when you're angry. I didn't swear or cut, but I said, you know what? I can't put that out there. That's not me, man. But this is what the club can do to you as a fan. But I'm gonna bring in Ray. And Ray, G made some good points, like the January transfer. This is my thing with the January transfer window, right? Is 2 seasons ago. We're trying to cement top 4. We don't sign anyone. We bought in, was it Matt? It was Austin Trusty and Matt Turner. Like for goodness sake, but not going to come to the club. We didn't buy anyone, and it backfired. Mm-hmm. I think I was asked. I think Potsy asked me on his channel. I think last season. This is when we had Balogun still at the club. So we're going to sell Balogun, but we're still not going to bring in a striker. And you're right, G. We're not going to win the league, whether it be this season, next. You know my thoughts are when it's a striker at Arsenal. It's not the most obvious one. You've heard me say it, James, Victor Gyökeres. Right? Could it get done? I don't know. I think the release clause is similar to what Isak was at Newcastle. Isak was at Sociedad, I think 75, 80, so whatever it is, 70, 80 million. He's someone I'd like. I think he fit at Arsenal fantastically well. But again, if that was going to happen next season, Osimhen, I mean, that miss was terrible yesterday. I'm still upset about that result, but I'm digressing. Sorry, the 1-0 against Exora Guinea. But Ray, coming to you, I mean, what's your thoughts about January? I don't think we're going to get any business done personally. I think he's going to just go with what he's already got. And if they can manage a loan deal in there, they'll do it. But I'm not confident they will get anyone in. What's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, unfortunately, I probably have to agree that I don't think we'll get anyone in either. I mean, the striker market is
Tough one.
It's just almost impossible to navigate.
And that's not just a January thing, by the way. That's not just a January thing.
No, it's even in the summer. I mean, I really liked Evan Ferguson, and I know he's young from Brighton, but I mean, he can't even get in Brighton's team at the moment. You know, he would have been someone I would have pushed for at the start of the season. But yeah, it's just almost every big team, every good team wants that killer up front, that killer striker. And I honestly believe there's probably only maybe 3 or 4 players in the world that qualify as that. I'm thinking Haaland, Kane, Mbappe, and then I'm struggling. I can't think of the 4th player. It would have been Benzema a couple of seasons ago, but you know, he's just disappeared, isn't he, in Saudi? So it's almost impossible to navigate. And I completely agree when you say we can't win a league with Jesus and Nketiah as our main front two. I do think Nketiah can be a good backup, can be a good second striker, can be, you know, an option. It's just Jesus can't stay fit. That's the issue. If we had 38 games of Gabriel Jesus, then I think we could. But I honestly can't sit here and say that's going to happen.
Yeah, ESR. The list goes on.
Exactly that. So how we navigate it? I mean, obviously the names. I'd love an Osimhen, but it's just not feasible. We'd have to sell.
Even he would be a risk.
And he's a gamble. Yeah. He's a gamble, and he has to work.
And it's 100 million gamble as well.
Yeah. I mean, Rice is obviously a huge transfer for us, and I know, James, earlier you mentioned that you bring in a player like that and we have to win the league. But the repertoire he's got of playing in the Premier League over 5 or 6 seasons now, for, you know, albeit West Ham, he's an England international, and you know that he's going to come in and he's going to give you a certain level, and that's exactly what he's proven up to now. Osimhen is a complete gamble. I do like Ivan Toney, but I just think that, again, you know, he hasn't kicked a ball, you know, professionally for, what was it, 6 to 8 months now.
Yeah.
I do think that's how we unlock David Raya, but again, it's why would Brentford sell? Honestly, you know, they're kind of in a desperate situation themselves, and Mbeumo is out injured.
Oh dear, they've had it bad.
Yeah. So if they're going to stay in the league this year, they need a fully fit Ivan Toney, firing on all cylinders. So they're not going to let him go for nothing, and they're not going to let him go for a loan deal plus Eddie.
No.
So it's almost an impossible situation. I do like the idea that James mentioned about bringing Neto. I think he's a good player, but again, injuries just concern me. So I hear what you're saying. That sort of profile, I don't know who that player would be.
You know what the problem, Ray, you know what the problem is? Like, just to finish up with this, hour and 10 minutes, we've been waffling right through, man. My top guys in the chat, man, and top guys at my panel. I think the biggest problem we have at our club, and this is a structural thing, by the way, is it will take time, but it needs to happen a bit more quickly, is our ability to sell players and get good money for them. I know people talk about, you know, spent the money Chelsea, Man City spent this, but they sell well. City, Sterling, Zinchenko, Ferran Torres, Leroy Sane, Chelsea, Tomori, Abrahams, Kurt Zuma, Kai Havertz. I mean, they sell well, man. Arsenal are in a position now where we probably wouldn't get the amount of money for the players that we could probably move on. Obviously, if we God forbid if we sold Saka, we'd probably get King's ransom for him. But we've actually probably got some players now that we could get a bit more money, not hark back to the sale of Iwobi and Oxlade-Chamberlain. That's one thing that has hurt Arsenal. For years.
We do it to ourselves, Albert.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
sadly, again, I don't want to feel like you guys, and especially your chat, sit there going, "God, James must really hate Arteta the way he's spoken about him tonight." Because honestly, I swear to you,
but it's an issue, James. It is an issue. It's a big issue.
If you leave these players to one side for so long, you tank their value.
Yeah. Well said.
I mean, as much as I don't want Aaron Ramsdale to go. When Aaron Ramsdale goes in the summer, he should be going for £65 million. Yeah. We will be lucky to get back what we've paid.
Yeah.
Because of this situation. Even though he's got 4 more years left on his contract, because we gave him a 5-year extension, he will probably go for, if we get anything above 40 million, Albert, I'll be shocked. I will be shocked.
I'll be very shocked.
Yeah, I would.
And that is another problem is that for whatever, I don't want to say he's ostracizing these players, but if you leave them out in the wilderness for so long, you're not going to get the money. I mean, 2 seasons ago, West Ham wanted Eddie Nketiah 2 seasons ago. If you remember, Antonio got a big injury and they were just desperate. They offered 25 million quid and we said no. We should have took that the 2 seasons ago. But now,
it's like the year that Wolves came in for
Maitland-Niles.
Maitland-Niles. I think they offered somewhere in the region of 20 to 30 mil, and they ended up losing them on a free.
But there's the rumor at the moment about Palace, and they're like, we don't want to sell him because we're playing you at the weekend. Who cares? If you're going to sell him after it, what's the difference? You've wasted 20 days of a window to get a replacement in. Because it's like, okay, if we play Palace on Saturday and we beat them, which I think we will. I know you'll probably do predictions that so too hasty. I think we will beat them. But you sell them Eddie after that. That leaves what 21, about 9 days or so of the window left. Why do we do this? I mean, the one thing I will say about Arteta, one positive I'll give on Arteta is he doesn't waste his windows. It might not be always people that we want, but he don't waste them. And I do not believe for 1 second that he's gone into Stan or Josh or whoever he has to report into and go, okay, I'm happy not to do anything in this win. I know you said that's a very, very good chance we might do nothing, but I can't believe that he wants to do nothing. I think he's at least pushing, going, well, you got to give me a short-term option somewhere. I mean, a lot of people are saying that at fullback. I don't see that. I think if you've got Tomiyasu 2 or so weeks away and Timber a little bit later than that,
Tomiyasu's gone to the Asia Cup, so you must.
Yeah, but he could be back. It's after it finishes just after the Liverpool game, right? I mean, ideally, I'd want him for Liverpool, but he'll be back for that West Ham game in the league. But I'm like, okay, so you've got to go through Palace, Nottingham Forest, and then the tricky one is the Liverpool game with Zinchenko. I think you could, other than Liverpool, I think you can get away with. I mean, Elise is very, very good. Eze is very, very good. But I think you can get away with Zinchenko against Palace and Nottingham Forest.
Eze is someone I would want personally. I've said
I'd take them both, Albert. I'd take them both.
Big ups people in the chat. Like I said, I've an amazing guest panel with me, man. Creme de la creme of Arsenal community, man, on the panel. Smash the like button, people. This will go on the audio as well. I want to thank my amazing guests. Firstly, Lord Granville, the King of Ramsgate. Thank you. Tell the people where they can find you.
No, man, you know what? I have to echo exactly what James said at the beginning of the show, in that, when somebody asks me to come on to a stream or a podcast, there's very few people that I genuinely say yes to, because I'm a very busy man, ultimately. Wife, kids, job, all sorts. But bro. Albert, when you come calling, yeah, if there's the breath in my body, I will try my best to make it. So no, it's always a pleasure coming on your show. I always enjoy being on your channel. I always enjoy obviously doing these podcasts and streams with people like Ray and James. It's been an absolute pleasure. So yeah, if you want to interact with me, X is where I do most of my interaction. And obviously my handle's on the screen, which is at G Talks Arsenal. And obviously, if you want to see more of me in terms of like on my own channel, then you just need to go onto YouTube and search up the Armory TV. But yeah, other than that, it's been a pleasure. Thank you to everybody who's obviously tuned in and left a comment. And most importantly, thank you to obviously Albert, the host of this amazing channel. And thank you, Ray and James. It's been a pleasure as always.
Well said, Lord. Like I said, people, during the stream, yeah, the Armory TV and James's channel is in the title in blue. So smash that and subscribe to my amazing people. And of course, the Hastings' finest is Super Ray Racing Kassim. Ray will voice that later and talk about Kevin Samuels, all sorts of things, man. But thank you for coming on, man. Tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, no, thank you again for having me. It's been an honour, certainly with James and G as well. Absolute legends, the pair of them. So, yeah, thank you so much, and everyone in the chat as well. Yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's Ray_Kassim. I had a thing on Twitter, well, X, football Twitter. I just had enough of it, to be honest. So I kind of had a thing, anyone with an Enzo Fernandez picture or Richarlison or anyone like that, I just block or mute. So yeah, any more, just feel free to come and follow me. Unless you have those as your profile pictures, then just don't bother.
Well said, Ray. Ray, pleasure to get you on, man. Now, people who are watching this live now and will watch this back. Now, I did not send a memo to any of these guys to wear black. But it actually worked out fantastically well. Obviously, like I said, when I do weekly surgery, it's a serious business for me, man. The open heart surgery in the Albert JTV clinic. So I have to wear black as the host to make it like a serious business. But last but not least, most beautiful man in Essex, James.
Oh,
thank you for coming on, mate. Tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, it's all there, mate. LL Cool James 91. You've done all the hyperlinks, so I appreciate that, my friend. Any traffic that goes towards my channel, I will take. So thank you very, very much. And there's been a lot of questions tonight about Arsenal's front four and if they were firing. Well, I think this front four today, at least we fired, didn't we? We didn't miss. We did our job. So on Saturday, let's hope that whoever's out there, he might chop and change it again. He might go Nelson again. He might do. You don't know. But yeah, I hope they've got their shooting boots on because, like I said earlier, I think I've been slightly negative tonight, but it could all change within a month. That everyone else could have a dreadful, like we've had a bad December, they could have a torrid January, and then we could do this in about a month's time, Albert, and we'll have a completely different perspective.
James, my brother.
And you're allowed to change your mind. That's the thing.
Exactly.
No, you're not. No, you can't. You said it now, James.
No, James, you're not negative. I've seen negative on this platform. We've been doing this long enough.
Yes, so have I.
Some of the streams I've seen, it's been very interesting, man. I'll tell you that. Some good debates, though. Good debate with Potsy channel. Ray, you've seen it with Kev and Tom.
Yeah, you sent me it the other day. Very good.
Yeah, it was a very good watch, and I will tell them each individually as well. That's a very good watch as well. When I see Potsy, I'm gonna give him a hug, man, because the guys feel it, man. I feel it.
Yeah, you need to give Super Kev a hug, man. He's had a torrid day. Both of his former clubs potentially got points. He needs a big cut. Super Kev needs a super hug, man. Today he's had a shocker.
I'll drop him a message. I think he was he on co-com yesterday? Was he? He was at the ground yesterday for Everton's game. I'm sure he was. Was he? He was, because they spoke to him. They definitely spoke to him. But I'll drop Kevin a message, man. But people, your host Albert JTV. Subscribe. Look out for more content coming. I won't give away, if anything, any big guests are coming on, because you've got to put the work in and you got network, and we'll see. And like I said, subscribe to the channel and obviously subscribe to my guests' channels as well and social medias. But that is Albert JTV over and out. It was episode 27 because I even put it in the title, so I should know that myself. But yeah, episode 27, man, of weekly surgery. Wow, we're getting through. Big up to people in the chat. This will go on audio a bit later. As Albert JTV over and out, the surgery is now closed. Look out for episode 28. Good night. God bless people.